there, Sugahbee. Thanks for tuning into my channel. I'm taking the reading from the Afro Tarot. I really enjoy this particular deck. It's by Jesse Jumanji. And as I said yesterday, the images are very captivating. I pulled, I believe, 4 cards. Let me see. 1, 2. I'm just going to go ahead and get into the reading. 2, 3, 4 cards. That was my first part of my reading. Okay, this is messages from the ancestors, and this is what I get out of it. And it's definitely for the collective. It's for all of us. The 7 of Wands shows up here. However, this card shows up reversed. Now, the Wands are typically a combative sign every once in a while, or depending on how it's following suit, that we see it as creative. But in order to create something, you have to destroy something first. At least that's the line of thought. And so this is reversed. And so this is not about doing things as we've done them before, and we need to relinquish an old way of creating things. It's not giving us any wholesome experience of feeling like we are getting any further ahead in our endeavors to regain or recapture what belongs rightfully to the African melanated families here in the Americas. The second card that shows up, which is a 7 again, it's reversed, so it's not individualized, it is collective. However, this card shows up, 7 of Swords, reversed. Now, when I look at this card and I was listening to what this meant, usually this is about leaving something on the table, looking back, maybe having some regret that you didn't have a particular say in what was being created. And I think a lot of our elder generation may feel like that, especially when they were what has built here, the Americas, that none of it was for them. It wasn't for us, really. Even though we were building it, it wasn't for our bounty. It was for someone else's bounty. And so we've looked back, and I'm going to say it's really interesting because the 7 of Wands, typically he's like fighting in combat, and his back is against the wall. But here it's reversed. There is no wall any longer. Our backs are not against the wall, which means that we can relinquish this fighting nature that we've been doing with the so-called powers that be, that really try to keep us from being able to create and think for ourselves. The 7 of Swords is we shouldn't look back at the things that we created that was for the other people, not for us. We should count it. We should make it like that. Like, since it was created for their use, they built a system, a judicial system, a political system out of the things that we built, and used it for their advantage, and it doesn't work towards our advantage. However, it's reversed. That 7 of Swords and 7 of Wands are both reversed. So it's really what I'm hearing or seeing from these cards, based on what this message, this download is saying, is that how you've been doing things before, this fight or this struggle, you got to stop struggling. What are you struggling for? Because whatever you created intellectually now became the best use for them. They've used everything that we have created and structured law and judicial decision to be against the diaspora, even though we have been the catalyst to what is our creation here. But does it matter if it was being used against us? So then right now we need to relinquish that and begin speaking from a different narrative. The King of Cups is here. Then now we need to speak from the narrative of ourselves as being in the righteous position to create for ourselves, to emotionalized from a different perspective, and that perspective doesn't have to include anyone else, especially since we have been excluded from everyone else, right? So the King of Cups is about creating a different narrative, and that different narrative is the world that we're building that does not have to include, it doesn't have to have inclusion. Just like there was exclusion, it doesn't have to have inclusion just because someone says so. Because what we have seen is the educational system, which is the swords, the judicial system, which is the swords, has all been worked against us, even though we have been the leading resource of everything. We're the leading resources of reading and math. And we look at the University of Timbuktu, that was real. And all of those things were taken and extracted and studied and then reproduced. But yet, even through that, we have scholars that were African American or African indigenous that now under this terror of control, they yet were able to go to school and become professors. We have George Washington Carver, Ivan Van Sertima, Chancellor Williams, Howard Foley that discovered penicillin, and so many more, so many more. And yet, all of these things eventually started to be worked against us. We look at the Tuskegee experiment and slavery in itself. So it's time to change that narrative, and also from changing the narrative, we create something different. That's what the Ace of Wands is. Look at that as a collective. We're to create something different, something that works for our people, because it is our people that have learned how to create for other people. We may have thought that it would be a benefit for us, but it ended up not being a benefit for us. It's being used against us. And so, what does that look like? I found it always very interesting when I look at the movie Wakanda. That was a full African culture, community, country of itself, Wakanda. And everything there served the people. And that is why it was such a coveted place, because what they had to create this peaceful and prosperous environment didn't look like what was, and now our reality, what looks like the Americas. But we have the power to build something that belongs to us only, and for us to thrive in that, for us to work in that. And that is connected to our education, that's connected to our social platforms, that's connected to our work and our career, and even our sports. And dare I even say our money. Money can be any agreed upon currency as long as it's used in the connection with those that are agreed to use it. It's not legal tender if you intermingle it into a system that doesn't accept it. But as long as everybody that's using it accepts that currency, then it's just fine. We have to begin creating our own. And with the power of our own hands, and with the power of our mind, and with the power of our words, we can do that. We can create, and it can be in this lifetime. It doesn't have to be, somewhere 20, 30, 40 years, or for the next generation, or for the next era for our children. It doesn't have to be that at all. However, it does need to start, and that's what the ancestors are saying. It needs to start. And the old way of doing things, the platform of marching and protesting and protesting and marching, only is asking for the permission to integrate in their system of the things that we created. So then it said, let them have that creation and begin to make your own. You don't need to participate in what they decided to take from you. Go create something better. As time has gone on, we can see the areas that need work. We can see the problematic pieces of what we created. We can see how a system doesn't work and learn how to create a better system. The ancestors are very, very agitated with the fact that we keep trying to put ourselves in their system because we created it. Really, it's the baseline is that, so if you created it once, you can create it again, but for yourselves. That's the answer. I'll be back tomorrow with the messages from the ancestors. Ashe.